Hello world, welcome to Thoughts with an Accent. And here we talk about life in the modern world, how we humans think and behave in today's reality, and why. Hi guys, and welcome to my podcast. I'm really excited because this is the first episode of my podcast, and thank you for joining me. To me, a podcast is probably a less filtered and more honest way of sharing thoughts online with a wider audience. And yes, I'll be talking about things that I've experienced in life, the things that people in the world talk about. And yes, this is my way to invite you to the conversations and that I've had with myself. Oh, that sounds awful. Still, my thoughts. And yes, I'll be happy to hear what you think of that. And to start with, I picked, I think it's a very suitable question for the first episode because it's connected with identity. And the question is, where are you from? So this is the kind of question, where are you from, that probably most of us have heard in our lives. When we meet new people, when we travel, there are lots of scenarios where you can hear it. And I want to kick it off with a story that happened in the UK a few months ago. There was an event. It was an important event, connected with some of the palace representatives, I think. And there was a lady who is a founder of some charity. She's British, but she is of, she has some African heritage. So another woman, Lady Susan Hussey, asked her where she was really from. And that lady, who's the charity founder, she found it really offensive. So she thought it was racist, and it kind of caused a bit of a stir. I found out about the story from TikTok, of course, because one of the TikTok profiles, one of the channels, the ones where a host comes out, to the city centre and asks people different questions. So it was one of those TikTok channels. So there was a host who was asking random people in some big city, probably London, where they were from. And people were really happy to tell her where they were from. They were sharing their cultures, their origins. And the point of that video was that, you see, this question is not offensive. So we are making too much out of it. So it made me think, because this question, where are you from, it can seem simple, but actually, how relevant is it to modern life? And can it really be offensive? Let's have a look. So there are actually different sides to this question. So one side is the intention that the person who's asking has, and the other side, the perception of the question. Let's have a look. So what kind of intention does the person who's asking have? Why would someone ask somebody else? Well, first of all, when we see that somebody is different from us, whether somebody looks different or somebody sounds different, we immediately notice that, and we have this little signal that says, oh, that person is not from here. And we immediately want to place that person somewhere in our, map, our mental map. And we say, where are you from? I mean, fair enough, right? But if you are on the receiving side of the question, you would think, okay, so if somebody's asking me, they spotted something that's different, and the signal is they think I don't belong because they so obviously notice that they want to know where I'm from. And this is the first element of that emotion, right, that somebody might feel. I'm not saying everybody would feel that, but they might feel when they're asked where you're from. So it means that, oof, I'm not from here, and it's obvious, and somebody spotted that and they want to find out. Okay. I remember being in, I think, in some supermarket packing my groceries, and I said hello to the person at the till. I think I said like one and a half words, and then he goes, "Oh, where's your accent from?" Oh, by the way, this way of asking that British people have is really, I mean, it's cute, but it's very interesting. I always feel like, oh, my accent has a separate life of its own, which is kind of true, but it's a different story. Yeah, so the person at the till goes, "Where's your accent from?" And I thought, really? Just like that, straight away? Is it that obvious? But then I talked about it. I wasn't sure how I was feeling. And I talked about it with a coach, with an accent coach. And he said, you know what? Don't take it personally. It's not, it's not a criticism. It's not a comment on your accent. It's our curiosity. If we hear or see something different, we're curious where that comes from, which I think can be true, yes. But then it makes you think about the nature of curiosity, okay? If somebody is curious just about where I'm from, just to place my accent or something else, fine. But the information I'm about to give to that person answering this question, if somebody says, "Oh, where are you from?" And I say, "I'm from Russia because I'm Russian. I'm from Russia." What follows, what that person does with that information, I have no control of. And it all depends on the experience that that person has had in their life. Have they, I don't know, have they met anybody Russian before? Have they been there? Do they know what Russian people are like? Are they going to just add, I don't know, pile some characteristics or stereotypical characteristics on me and make a judgment? Well, yes, probably all of the above. And that's the truth. We don't know what experiences the person who's asking has had in life, so how they're going to treat that information that we're given them, and whether the judgment is gonna help us or the other way around. And that is the trickiest part. So I think whenever somebody feels offended, that comes from these two main parts. They either feel that they don't belong, or somebody made that conclusion that they don't belong, or they have a certain fear, or they're nervous that the other person is going to pile that lot of attributes on them that they don't necessarily have. Is there a positive side? For example, are there any other contexts where we can talk about it? Well, I've been on a student exchange, I don't know if you have, where we had a group of students from all over the world. And that is, that is the situation where you would know that somebody's, like, most of the people would not be from this particular place. So I spent half a year in the Netherlands, and yes, everybody in the group of exchange students was from somewhere. So the question, "Where are you from?" was, the second after "What's your name?" And because the idea of an exchange was, to exchange your culture, different, experiences, the fact that you're bringing something from outside had a particular value. And that value was appreciated, it was respected, it received certain attention. So yes, and that was the whole point of it. Now, if you're an immigrant, which I have been an immigrant into different countries. So I live in the UK now, but I also lived in Spain for 4 years. And as an immigrant, you're not 100% sure how that contribution, if you want a cultural contribution, how it's going to be perceived in that place where you're moving. Do people appreciate it? Do they feel threatened? Do they not care? It can be any of that. So what kind of combined emotion that the person will project on you, that's also important. So I think that would be one of the reasons for people to avoid that question, not to want to hear it. And somebody also made a comment, especially if you're trying to blend in, if you're trying to assimilate somehow. Some people, usually also immigrants, I'm speaking from my point of view, they make comments like, why do you want to be like this? Or why do you not just, stick with your thick Russian accent, for example? Why do you want to work on this or on that? Almost as if criticizing that, you are giving up on your identity to be like somebody else. When the truth is, it's not black and white. It's not, everybody has their own goals and their own values when they move abroad, when they travel. And of course, everybody wants to keep their identity, but what that identity is really individual. So for somebody, it's important to keep their accent, to keep their, certain cultural traditions. For somebody, it could be more important to become a part of the local community. Depends on who, people interact with on a daily basis. And yes, sometimes people avoid standing out because they fear that somebody else will add, those undesirable attributes to them. And there is another thing about asking somebody where they're from. You don't know their journey. I've lived outside my home country for 10 years. Yes, of course, I have that rich cultural background and a lot of my habits and things that I like doing, I carry with me, and I probably will throughout my life. I'm proud of that. But at the same time, I might not be in touch with today's culture of that place because I left a long time ago. I might not be a very accurate representative from that place. And somebody would just, judge me based on, their understanding of how the country is today, for example. That's also quite risky. And then how do I add? So when somebody says, where are you from? And they almost want me, to share my identity. But how do I add to that all that experience, international experience that I've had in my life? Do I just say, next time somebody asks where you're from, and I'll be like, okay, sit down. I have a story to tell you. Is it like that? Do people have in their minds, space for that to say, oh, I am from Russia, I lived here and there, and I've worked and traveled across the world. What sort of image is created, in the end? So that is what kind of information can the person get about you. So next time you want to ask somebody where they're from, think about what kind of information you actually want to know, and what for, why, what you're going to do with that information. Sometimes I think this question is not relevant anymore. And in some conversations, I just ask people, for example, oh, did you grow up around here? And then I invite, by asking that, I invite them into the conversation, not just to say where they grew up, but then they volunteer a bit more, and then they share the information that they feel that's important. So I give the control, to them, and then they paint that picture from the angle that they want to share. And so that's one way that I think can make a more accurate picture, asking somebody where they grew up or if they grew up here. Another way, another question, like variation of this question that I heard is, where are you local? Maybe it sounds a little bit more awkward. And when you ask this question, you sort of expand that, identity that the other person might want to express. So if somebody asks, oh, where are you local? It gives me a chance to express what my current life is like, what information I have, what place I am based in, all sorts of that information that can add to their judgment about me. So just to sum it up, we all value our identities. We might be more or less aware of them, but we value our identities and we value opportunities to share them. So if a well-asked question, where you're from, allows us to express that identity and creates a friendly enough atmosphere to do so, then fantastic. I don't think that anyone would find that offensive. But if the situation or the tone of asking or the possibility of the response to the question where you're from to be misinterpreted is quite high, then yes, it's quite a risky ground. So this is all I had to say for today. Thank you very much for joining me. Please share your thoughts on what you think about this particular issue. Maybe share some topics that you would like me to talk about. If you're watching this on YouTube, please leave your comments in the comment section. If you're listening to this podcast on any platform, you can go to my Instagram page. It's linked in the podcast description. You can drop me a message or a comment there. Stay curious and don't forget to listen to the next episode. Bye.